Well, they're not going to go away soon. They're grinding down the whole stairwell. Coming up, a confession from an agency's CEO.
We're going to showcase a really good media idea.
And finally, we're going to look at some good results coming out of the Havas Group. Hello and welcome to IDCOM's Media Snack, episode 14. So today we are reporting on an anonymous confession made by an agency CEO when it comes to the impact and effectiveness of digital advertising.
We're going to champion and showcase a really smart media and creative idea online.
Yep. And there's been some really good news coming out of Havas Group. So we'll touch on some of the results that they've published for 2015 and have a look at really what's going on within that group. All coming up on IDCOM's Media Snack in just the time it takes to eat a sandwich. Okay, so first up this week, we came across a very interesting story which has been reported as a confession, an anonymous confession by the CEO of an agency, we think a digital agency in the UK, published by a company called Digiday.
So what are Digiday?
Digiday are one of the trade publications published online. As the name suggests, their focus is really on digital advertising, and I think their sweet spots are the US and the UK market predominantly, but obviously being global, it has global reach. But they have a series called Confession series, and they on the exchange of anonymity asked for complete candor on some interesting topics around the industry. And the one that they published this week was with, as I say, an agency CEO who quite sensationally is declaring that all banner advertising is ineffective.
And completely useless.
Right. And given that it represents billions and billions of marketing investment,
and it's going up.
Quite concerning.
That's the thing, right? So investment behind display banner advertising continues to increase in the billions. Yet this CEO has said that it has absolutely no effect on sales. So that's a complete waste of money.
I know. Which is it's an interesting perspective, and something which perhaps we've suspected that there wasn't enough rigor and discipline being applied to decisions, particularly when it comes to display, because display, as we know, has been kind of riddled with criticism over the years that click-through rates and engagement rates and recall rates of just the banner stuff is what we're talking about, has reduced over time, and that actually really perhaps doesn't serve the purpose. I think the most interesting insight from the confession, from this reported confession, was that agencies and vendors have somewhat been complicit in making this feel like an incredibly complex area, right? We talk a lot about this, just increasing layers of complexity in media and the inability to simplify. I mean, a banner can't be that complicated, right? But
there's a lot of stakeholders involved in these kind of discussions and these decision making.
And it sounds attractive. I mean, from a marketing perspective, it sounds, when I can offer you as an agency or a vendor, I can offer you, immense reach through banner advertising.
Huge numbers, which, as a currency generally seem to make you feel comfortable. But the real issue is that it has absolutely no effect, according to this CEO, on sales. And so if banner advertising were to be removed, nobody would actually miss it, is what he's saying.
And this is a multi-billion-dollar industry that's kind of built up around this with layers of complexity and many vendors and stakeholders. So, I think one of the messages is that a lot of money has gone into this area. It's become a bit of an echo chamber. Interestingly, they draw the parallel, or they make the distinction between perhaps those that really actually understand the complexity of this space are not doing it. And not doing it as much, and actually finding other things which are perhaps more effective. And it's perhaps those brands which which can't navigate the decisions, don't understand perhaps how it works, and particularly not putting in the right measurements.
Yeah, I think that's the issue from a marketer's perspective. Reach is one thing, numbers, impacts and impressions is one thing, but understanding what the real KPI, what the real metric of success when advertising online is going to be far more important. And if it's not working, do something else.
Yeah. So this is again, marketers take control, get the knowledge, get control, and perhaps make better decisions in this space. If it's not an effective opportunity, then something else might work.
And move on. So the second topic we're going to cover today is a really smart, creative and media idea come out of the US for a company called Geico, an insurance company. And you've been following it recently.
Yeah. We're obviously always on the lookout for really smart media ideas, and Geico have built a reputation actually of just doing some really good advertising historically, and then more recently really smart media things. And they won a lot of awards a couple of years ago, or a year ago, for a campaign they called Unskippable. And Geico were the first company that really understood how to make the most of pre-roll advertising. So this is the stuff that runs pre-online video, and it has tended to be forced viewing. So you might have an ad, a 30-second ad or something that you have to watch before you get to your Beyonce video, which is what they talk about.
Which is just annoying generally.
Which sometimes is annoying and it feels intrusive. There's a YouTube product called TrueView, which you might have seen, which gives you the little countdown, 5 seconds. And the idea is that you're forced to watch 5 seconds, but then you can skip. And then depending on where you decide to skip the ad, the client only pays either all or proportion or something. So that was a feature, TrueView. Geico understood that brilliantly 2 years ago, and they created a campaign called Unskippable, which you might have seen, and we'll provide the links to because they're just really entertaining pieces of film. And the Unskippable campaigns basically say you don't need to skip this ad because all the information is in the first 5 seconds. And I won't, if you haven't seen it, you probably have seen it already, but I won't spoil the outcome. But what they do with the remaining time is actually so compelling that you can't skip. So in effect, you end up watching the whole thing. It's just a really clever way of understanding how the format works. And media, as we keep saying, is so complicated. Brands that really get how to bring a format to life really, really stand out. And Geico have been brilliant at this. But they haven't just stopped there. So that was regarded as really the best media idea of 2015.
That won a Cannes Award.
Yeah, it was multi-award winning last year. And people have kind of delighted in the simplicity of its application. But thinking that perhaps that couldn't be better, they've just come out with something even better, which is so clever. And this is the next iteration called Fast Forward. And again from the Martin Agency. And again, it runs as pre-roll, pre-online video. And so it's live now on YouTube. And so they're still using 15-second film, but they actually deliver the message in 3 seconds this time, and they fill the middle of the video with an announcement that they are fast forwarding to the end of the film to save you time, because their whole proposition is about 15 minutes online can save you 15%. That's always been their strapline. So it's always about speed, get you to the answer quickly. And they're living that in their advertising. And so the format of these things, they set up a premise in a 3 seconds worth of ad, fast forward then to the end of that ad, and you're missing the middle of the story. And so it's the way they've set them up means it's very difficult to understand how that scene got from A to Z.
Brilliantly cryptic.
And it's so clever because the middle delivers the proposition of Geico, which is saving you time, helping you out. But actually, again, the content that they're providing is so compelling because you go, what on earth has happened in the middle there? You just have to click to find the deeper story. So from this 15-second tease, if you were waiting to watch your Beyonce video, actually, you can't resist now clicking into that campaign. And they've made 60, 90-second films.
Right. They're quite long,
which are the full stories, of which you've only seen the beginning and the end.
It's a brilliant example of great creative and media working together at a time when we're constantly complaining about the quality of online advertising, the rise of ad blocking. This is a brilliant example of great advertising engaging with consumers.
Exactly.
Brilliant.
And it's unavoidable, and I'm sure it will be hugely successful. So you would expect perhaps another round of award wins from Geico on this. They're really setting the bar, certainly when it comes to video advertising.
Good for them. So our transparency study that we've spoken about on a couple of Media Snacks closes today. And we've had a great response to it, haven't we?
It's been really, really good. And thank you for everybody that's taken the time to fill it in, even though it took 5 minutes to fulfill the survey. It's gone really well. It's only been running 10 days. We've had an overwhelming response, frankly, and from marketing, procurement, agency, vendor, very broad perspective of the industry, transparency and kind of trust. And so if you haven't had the opportunity to fill it in, we'll provide the link again. Please do so. So we've got to close it today so we can start reporting on some of the amazing insights that we're getting from it.
Good.
Okay, finally today, there's been some recent very positive reporting from the Havas Group, and we haven't spoken about Havas much, so it's about time that we did to put that right. So Havas are another of the Havas Group is another one of the kind of full service agency groups, slightly smaller than some of the bigger names that perhaps we talk about, the WPP and the Publicis and Omnicom and people like that. A little bit smaller, but equally doing great work for clients, and they're starting to publish some really interesting findings now and figures.
So Yannick Bolloré, the CEO, the youthful CEO of Havas Group, announced the results of 2015, and revenues globally were up nearly 19% to £1.7 billion. In the UK, revenues were up 17%, so doing really, really well. Organic growth globally was up by 5%, in the UK by 4%.
So it's organic, so it's not just because they made some acquisition.
So they were quite aggressively going into the marketplace, and I think they spent about 18 million euros acquiring smart, smaller, kind of creative content digital shops. But 5% organic growth is a really good result.
Yeah. And so what's kind of driving that? Because my observation of Havas, I think historically Havas was, perhaps unfairly, has been regarded as a kind of a less polished, smaller agency network, and it was made up of a mixture of different agency brands, a little bit rough around the edges, and the operational structure was perhaps not that clear. The Havas brand itself didn't feel that substantial. But I think in the last couple of years, we seem to have kind of pulled these things together. It feels a bit more, a bit well-oiled machine. It has a much clearer structure. I think what Yannick Bolloré, in terms of setting out his vision and his narrative around the business, has been really, really positive.
Yeah, and they've got a good management team. Just in the UK, Havas Media have promoted Paul Frampton to the CEO level of all of their media operations. They've got a good team in place, and they obviously got a very strong strategy and a clear strategy and a clear vision that is being laid out by Yannick, and it's working for them. And next year they're going to all migrate their offices into Havas Village, I think it's going to be called. So it's going to be based in King's Cross, and it's going to contain all of the Havas operating companies, both creative and media.
And that's happening around the world.
So they have it. It's a blueprint that I think they're following from Paris, where everything is housed together, allowing for greater integration, I think, across all of their business units.
Which is what we're seeing. A lot of the agency groups actually come physically together. We're certainly seeing it in London. A lot of the Omnicom agencies are now coming to new buildings. We've got a lot of the Group M agencies shortly moving into one building in London. This kind of cross-group, and actually we've talked about it in relation to the Publicis restructure, right? Which is bringing together the assets to enable clients, I guess, to easier navigate across the group offering. And there's benefit from the group perspective, I guess, in keeping as much of the client's assignments within the group, and then leveraging that.
That's good. It makes a lot of sense.
That opportunity. So it's good. It's good to hear, and it's great to see Havas, making some great forward momentum.
Absolutely.
There's good noise around them, I think, and then we're hearing interesting things about succession planning and longevity, that the Bollorés kind of view the business. It's not going to be a quick build and sell, which is what everybody's been anticipating.
Absolutely.
And so long may that continue.
Absolutely.
Okay, just before we go, one thing to remind you is that Media Snack is now also available as a podcast, so you can find that and subscribe to it on iTunes. We've heard back that quite a few of our viewers and now listeners enjoy listening to our dulcet tones and our insights and our rants whilst driving. So not the best to watch YouTube when you're driving. If you are driving, use the podcast, have a look on iTunes, and join the many there. That's it for now. Thank you for watching. Have a good weekend.
I say that.
Oh!